Thanks for staying with us. So, ahead of the 2023 general elections, the social innovator, philanthropist Chukwuka Monye has declared his intention to contest for the office of the President of Nigeria. He'll be discussing reasons why he's vying for this position and what he will be bringing on board if he wins. You can join the conversation on 081-270-53687, 091-390-7694. You can also tweet to us at #YoVTVC and send us messages on YouTube and Facebook. We'll be happy to read your messages. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you back.
It's good to be here.
Right, so before we even go into your plans and your ambition and all you want to do, before you came on, we were talking about JAM, you know, and a young man confessed after 21 years, right after he's written JAM, he confessed to the JAM office saying that I engaged in malpractice to get this, I didn't deserve to get this. And JAM was saying that it's going to be totally withdrawn. And there was a back and forth with the ladies. Some were saying, I agree with JAM. Others were saying, well, it should at least be giving some kind of levity because he was able to come and confess. What do you think in this regard?
Okay. So I think sometimes the challenge we have with the justice system is the completeness, you know, of the way, you know, cases are judged, right? So right now you're saying, okay, he has come out, he has confessed. Ordinarily, I would have told you, yes, it's okay for you to withdraw. But there needs to be a completeness around the judging of this case. Why? Because he didn't do it in isolation. If you tell me, for instance, that there's been a complete review, him and Ms. X, Mr. P, everyone, they're all collaborators and they're also guilty and they're also going to, you know, get some punishment. That's fine. But don't isolate it. He didn't do it alone. Let's have a complete review of this and ensure no. Why should someone be penalized because he's being honest? Right? Look at everything. If you say, okay, you want to hack him down, then what about others? Yeah, let there be fairness. I think that's my point.
Recently, you talked about the fact that security, institutional reforms, and jobs are priorities if Nigeria is going to be transformed. And I'd like us to start the conversation around that, you know, because everybody's talking about 2023 is the biggest topic now. And we're so excited about this year because we hope to speak to a lot of aspirants like you.
Is it the biggest topic?
Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest topic 2023. Everybody's talking about it.
It's our future.
Because NSAS reminded Nigerians that, listen, young people can have a voice. And we need young people to come out and get their PVCs and make that voice known 2023. So we need to portray and show candidates.
Right.
So in your view, first of all, this issue of insecurity is so in our face. And I know that the last administration lost elections primarily because of this issue of insecurity. The new one that came in for change, we had expected that the issue of insurgency would have reduced by now. In your view, what is your approach? What would be your own approach to tackle insecurity, especially in the north regions of the country?
So insecurity, yes, the north, you know, is experiencing a lot of, you know, issues with insecurity, but it's not just a northern challenge. Insecurity is actually a national, it's a national problem. And I think when I try to, you know, break down this issue, I like to look at it from two angles, okay? There's the physical insecurity challenge, and then there's a social dimension to it. Because you cannot separate the two, you know. There's a reason why people get into different ills of the society, get involved. And one huge reason is poverty. You know, poverty, unemployment, you're idle, what else am I going to do? I'm broke.
I need to eat.
I need to eat. I need to do something. I need to find a way to survive. Okay. That in itself is a major contribution to why there's a high level of insecurity. But there's also a physical angle to it. And one of the things I say often is that even if you speak to the average man on the street, they will tell you that there's little they are proud of, even when it comes to the security forces. there used to be a time when we were proud that, the armed forces of Nigeria, they, they went to this, ECOMOG days, that's what I remember. And, even at the time when I'm talking to other people, I feel like, I'm a Nigerian, man, we have power, And there was pride, even when you talk to people in the forces. Today, that's not the case for a number of reasons, how much are they earning? Are they well equipped? Are they being able to do a lot of the things that they want to do? Are they being given the right types of instruction, right? So all those are there when it comes to the sort of physical dimension to it. If you talk to some people in the forces, they will tell you that it's not that they do not know what to do. Now, sometimes it's just that they're not equipped, or sometimes they have not been, given the instruction, right? So there are other systemic considerations that we cannot really, talk about here. But at the end of the day, it needs to be tackled from those two angles, and you can't separate them. As a matter of fact, the social one is too huge. Because even when you start talking about justice, healthcare, education, it's the same thing. Why are people doing what they do?
I'll come to the ladies a bit, but I want us to unpack this a bit further.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, you say money, if we get the welfare, because you talk about the health of the police.
Correct.
But it goes back to economic capacity of the country.
Absolutely.
The politicians say, we don't have money, we are borrowing. I mean, we talk about it every single day, the fact that our debt profile is alarming. They say that we're not making enough money from crude oil anymore. We're trying to raise taxes. We try to raise taxes, Nigerians will complain, how are you going to tax this, tax that, So where does this money come from? So that we can then begin to pay security operatives, can we begin to pay for hospital and so where does the money come from?
Okay, good. Now, I often think in twos and threes, but there are two areas that you have to look at for money. Okay. Yeah, there's the organic, i.e., okay, how do you work with businesses to grow? I advise a lot of businesses. Now, one of the things that many of them tell me when I say, okay, guys, this is where I'm headed. I'm aspiring for this, position. What would you like me to do as president of Nigeria?
Make it better
for you.
What
would you like government to do? A lot of the business guys, guess what their response? Nothing. Just leave us. Because a lot of them are saying their experience with government is that when they get involved, they interfere and they mess things up. Yeah, they mess things up. So if their own demand and request this time around is nothing,
let them be.
Just leave us alone, then you know that things have gotten really bad. Now, coming from my own experience, I've helped to build businesses, so many of them from scratch, and they've been successful. So the moment you're sitting on this other side, where you now have to help, you have to do policies, you've experienced, you know their pain points. It's important that we begin to think about leaders who have experienced a lot of these things, because that's the only way they're able to lead,
True.
From an experiential perspective,
Okay, so please let me, the question Morayo raised about funding is a question that always shocks. I've spoken to politicians and they're like, they didn't know it was that bad.
No. So and that's why I said you can't politic it. Everything is always politicized. You can't, it's not about politics. One angle is, okay, organic, internal. Yes. The other angle is external. You must bring in foreign money. You don't have the money. So you have one option. Either you're patient and you tell everybody, I know say they choke as a country, but it will take us time.
And all of us will choke together.
We all choke together, But do people have that kind of patience? It's going to be a hybrid. You have to combine what we're going to do organically plus what we can also get externally. But guess part of the problem. If you go and get it externally and you don't have the right systems, you will not see that money. The money will come in. It disappears. Somehow it will just, do film trick, right? So you have to look at a combination of those. And part of the reason why some politicians will tell you that they are not aware that it's that bad is that they don't have the experience. They're
living a soft life.
They are disconnected.
Let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we continue with this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
I can tell you, I can give you a very simple example of signaling. When our current president came in, do you remember what the first 2 months was like?
Everybody sat up.
Body language.
There was fear.
Everyone's like,
You
yes.
didn't know which way.
You didn't know, yes. But at that point, everybody they arranged themselves. We were all gentle.
Yes.
You know, and you would have been shocked that, wow, where did that come from? So we had it in us.
Yeah.
We all have it. We all have it in us. But once there's the right leadership, that signal comes. And everyone starts to sort of align.
All right.
So I wanted to, because for me and Mariah, we're on opposite ends on this subsidy issue.
Okay.
All the time. Remove it, don't remove it. Don't create a bigger hardship on the people. How would you solve subsidy removal or the problem within that sector that, you know, is making us pay the subsidy without necessarily creating hardship on the people?
That point, still coming back to all these other things we spoke about earlier, which is let people become, you know, when people ask me why am I running, I say that I just want to restore the dignity of the average Nigerian. And I use the word dignity for a reason. Right now, I just don't feel that Nigerians
Dignified people.
are dignified. You know, they can't earn a living. They can't pay for their own power. You know, they can't pay for anything. It's difficult.
Scary.
You know, it's difficult. So if you then say remove subsidy, it's like you want to just kill me now. Oh, yeah, carry me and go. You know, it's too much. It's beyond choking. So if you want to remove subsidy, do something that makes me feel like a human being again.
Like,
why is it okay that we say Nigerians are great people, but Nigeria as a country is not great?
what do you therefore do? They wanted to give 5,000 naira to...
Absolutely not.
So what's that thing? I need you to answer that. So what's that thing? So if you remove it today...
You shouldn't remove it first.
Okay. What do you do first?
Let things get better first. And we're talking about from multiple angles, you know? We've talked about the business angle. We've talked about education. What are we doing?
So with a plan to pay 3 trillion of subsidy in 2022, if you were president today, what would you do? Would you pay 3 trillion and you know, do something like maybe start refineries? Or what?
How can you pay 3 trillion and start refineries? Which money? Where's the money?
What would be that middle ground?
No, it's not a middle ground.
What would you
It's
do?
a cocktail. It's a hybrid. It's a mix of a number of things.
So
you know, sometimes we make it simple. So you say, okay, do this and then you do this. It's not as straightforward as that. You're looking at a holistic ecosystem and economy, and there are so many dependencies, right? So if you look at all the levers, and I'm saying poverty is my own first consideration, guess what I would do? I'm not going to start off with subsidy conversation. Let's park that for a minute. Before you start removing from people, what have you given? Let's look at what we can do. And it's a combination of that internal thing that I said and external.
Mr. Monye, you're missing the point. The point is that if you want to pack it, if I pack it, I'm going to pay 3 trillion. Where would you get the money to solve poverty if you don't not pay that 3 trillion?
It's external. So if I bring in my own foreign investors, if I create an enabling environment, people are going to do business. Right now, even those that are inside the system cannot do business.
They are crumbling.
Because the environment is, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so
it's a crisis. So they are going to take it step by step. You know, and ensure that, okay, let people start to live a decent life.
Right.
So the issue it sounds a bit vague, and you know people like to have something to hold you by.
Sure.
Like specifics. And I understand that sometimes the real solution to our problem might not necessarily be Naira and Kobo specific. It might just be in the way we feel. It's in that hope and trust. When we have renewed hope, and then we trust the system will not disappoint us, a lot will just change. It will just be like everything just settles.
Let me even give you an example, Tokwe. I mean, I don't live in Anambra, but the fact that there's a new governor and he's saying the right thing, suddenly as an external, I feel like I'm hopeful.
Invest there or something.
I'm hopeful that Anambra might actually make sense just because of the posture, the signal that he has given.
So the idea of fresh blood bringing new perspective might give that hope and trust factor, which would help more people trust the system, investments will come in. But it's not an isolated case. One person cannot solve Nigeria's problem. We don't have a messiah problem.
No. Please, let me just add something.
Yeah.
When we talk about posture and signal, we're talking of inspirational leadership. You're talking of transformational leadership. What typically happens, it's a domino effect. The moment someone rises up and says, this is where we are going, guess what? Others that have been considering it will also rise.
So it's not really one person changing the system.
It cannot be one. How do you want to do it?
But what's going on in the national? We have issues with the National Assembly, and I've spoken to one-on-one conversation with people that I feel, but sir, honorable, you have this thing. Why are you unable to implement these policies or create this change in the law? And they say, I'm only one person in among 309 people, and you cannot get a consensus. You have to do lobbying, and so you find yourself with good ideas but unable to implement it. One. Number two, the president has good intentions, and the governor says, we don't want sovereign wealth fund. We want to spend our money. Yeah. You cannot do, how can one person galvanize the change necessary to move us from where we are to where we want to be?
In democracy.
Okay.
That's the problem.
Democratically.
Now, I think those are the skills that we're talking about that you need to see in a president, because when you talk about, the requirements and skill sets of a president, people will tell you, oh, no, you must have been in politics and you must have done all, being grassroots. So, and my question often is, okay, what specific skill sets have you gained to enable you, address this kind of situations, right? Now, stakeholder management is an important skill. I'm not foolish. I'm not naive, to assume that, once I get there, and I just speak it, it will be done. Absolutely not. It requires engaging people. It requires getting buy-in. It requires all those kinds of things. You have to, Why are they saying, okay, that a president must be likable? He's someone that needs to be relatable. There's a reason why. There are people that, when I started this, quest, they said, no, we don't, he's a young guy from nowhere. It's like, but the more they engage and the more they find out, they're like, okay, it's buying, it's a process. And any leader needs to understand that it's a process, okay? So I'm not, as I go in, I'm going to engage. I'm going to ensure, it's like that everywhere in the world. You lobby, you get buying, you get everybody involved. You can't make one decision.
Bisi mentioned quickly now that in a democracy, and we know the dynamics where you have a policy, some of these policies by our constitution has to go through our National Assembly.
Some, yes.
And we have how many people in that whole entire place? A crowd of people. Lobbying them along party lines is difficult, alone, not to talk of as a bunch. How do you plan to do this? You are vying now. We don't know on which platform. Which platform are you vying?
So the decision is going to be made in very, very soon. Okay, so yes.
And then let's assume that you get it on a different platform, an unknown one, a young, fresh one.
Correct.
How do you then make these people who have interest everywhere, who can pad the budget and call it not padding?
So you've used the word interest. That's the bottom line in engagement, right? You're not always going to get your way 100% of the time. You're going to have to compromise in some cases. But the key is, at every point in time, you want to keep moving the needle to ensure that there's progress. Yeah. So if I'm engaging, I know people are going to say, oh, no, from a party standpoint, you're not our guy. But I know you also want good. You are a beneficiary of some of the things I'm bringing to the table. So no matter, you're not going to tell me that all the time what the party wants will trump what human beings want.
I was discussing something recently with somebody. We're talking about godfatherism. And somebody was telling me that, listen, they understand how people hate the concept of godfatherism, but actually godfatherism has actually helped in other societies where if you have a good godfather who actually indeed has the interest of his constituents in his heart, he can actually raise leaders to actually take over. So in my view, I mean, what do you think? Do you think Nigeria is ripe not to have godfathers? Do you think, because when you see the way people, the average person out there does, and you're thinking, this is some of the reasons why you need, either we need a godfather, we don't need a godfather in politics. So in your view, are we ripe to exist without godfatherism, or do you think that we still need to have some godfathers, and let's push some people up out there?
Let me jump on what you said. Do we need godfathers, or founding fathers leave us a document that guides so that we, how do we do it?
You cannot rule out the role of godfathers. I think many times the real concern is what our definition of godfatherism is, or the type of godfather we're talking about. You know, there are some people that will tell me, because I mentor a lot of young people, I am a godfather in my own right. Right? So it really depends on what your definition of godfatherism is. If your definition is, you know, someone who's a mentor, who's guiding, who's helping you become a better person, who's supporting you as best as they can, without necessarily expecting some sort of return, you know, because that's also, you know, a factor. Yeah. Someone who's doing such and supporting you is a good.
And in politics, it's
okay, but
you would find it.
But that's not what we have now. There's always return on investment expected. So when you push in the billions, you got to pay back somehow. But let me ask you this question. I know that no man can solve the country's problems in isolation. Have you identified your team? So you're thinking of coming for presidency, you have somebody who's going to be at the National Assembly in so place, somebody's going to be governor in this state, have you identified people who you're going to work with? And why am I saying this? I remember in the scriptures when David was in isolation in the wilderness, he had a bunch of idiots that were learning under him. And so when he took over, those were people who were positioned in strategic places to help his government. Have you identified those people? How are you working together?
So there are quite a number of people at all levels that have, you know, and that's why people are finding it interesting that I haven't, you know, mentioned the party. Okay. Part of the reason is there's so many factors being considered, including a lot of people that are saying, hey, which direction
are we going?
And they're interested in running at all levels. Senate in some states, House of Rep in some states, you know. So there are people. There are people that believe in a new Nigeria. There are people that are saying we want something different. And that group is growing on a daily basis.
Mr. Monye, let me just ask you this direct question. Because as a Nigerian, as a young Nigerian, it hurts sometimes when you see the complexity of this nation. You know, you go one way, you hit a brick wall. You go another way, NLC is there. You go one way, you know, everywhere is just so, and you're thinking, is there really hope? Like, can this country be fixed?
Short answer is yes. There's hope. When I get asked this question, many times it's young people, it's the youth asking me. And the question I ask back is, how are you involved in the process?
What do you see?
What do you see? What are you doing? Now, if the youth, for instance, decide today that they want to overwhelm all the political structures.
They can.
They can.
Yes.
Today.
Easily. Sharp.
Right? And if they do it, whose agenda do you think they are going to push? It's their own agenda. But right now, you don't have somebody who is thinking like you, who can process the way you're processing, who can fight for your interests. You don't have.
There's still room for PVC registration and collection. Please, I want to ask a question. There's a political. We know that there's a lot of politics going on. There is the agenda of South. You are the Southeast. You're in between. You're not South. I don't even know. If I need to put that one. But then there's the agenda for the South, and there is the conversation around this should be zoned towards this area. Do you believe that the conversation should be around zoning? Also, there are many candidates who've come from the South, and some of them technocrats speaking very well that they have the agenda. Is there any form of, are you looking towards consolidating, creating like a consensus within the southeast belt to say that we want to come together as one, or you're just focusing on your individual political drive right now?
So it's not just a personal thing for me. There's a big picture to this. And a lot of times when you're looking at the lens that you use for these things, what I recommend is not to use the lens of ethnicity, tribe, etc. You know, for me, because of the generation that I represent, that is more of a priority. We have not seen a lot of the things that our parents told us about. So when you start coming to tell me about, you know, tribe, ethnicity, all that, it's not. See my people, many of them are not working. I hire, I recruit, and they tell me after 1 month that they've resigned. Why? They want more pay. But the income that is coming cannot, you know, it's tough everywhere. So let me first of all address those issues. How can I make tribe and ethnicity a priority at this time? It's impractical.
I wanted to talk about the youth. You know, I said, I feel that we overrate this youth. This morning, just this morning, 6:25 a.m. at Mautu, a youth sat by the road and was rolling weed. He's going to take it or sell it. That's one of the numbers we're looking at. Can they make the kind of decisions that would choose a leader like you, if we talk about the numbers that we have? Or should we look somewhere else for these numbers?
So the reason why I don't like that example is...
I'm coming.
Yes, is that the person rolling weed could have been any other age. So let's not make it a youth factor.
I know.
Right?
I know my mates.
It could have been. It could have been anybody. So it's not a youth factor, right? Now, can they make this right decision? I think so. I'll tell you something. I think we have been unfair to the youth, right? Because sometimes you have very, very high expectations of this same youth. My question is, what did you give them that is giving you the basis? No. You can't expect so much when you have not even sold. When you have not sold, what did you give them?
See, this is why
it's unfair for you to expect so much from them.
We had some quality candidates in the last elections that, you know, they expect that anybody that see them go and queue and vote. But we had an election, and the people that came out to vote, they will even beat you to vote the vote. And then they will come out later and say, we need a revolution, protest, and all of that. Where were you when we were making the choices? These people are usually distracted at this time because the most popular thing now, every single artist that is A-list, when they finish performing, they are doing this thing in the videos in our faces.
Let me pause you for a second. I have to take this call.
Jude
has been calling. I'll let you answer in a minute. Jude, are you there? Hold it for a while.
Yeah.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Okay. If I would like to ask the aspirant the question. As other politicians, how am I going to put this now? Okay. Can you tell us the type of job creation plan he has for youth? Secondly, I would like to know a definite action plan towards security, economy, and job creation.
All right. Thank you very much. He has touched on security and job and economics. But let's go to job. I'll connect the job creation to Nima's question concerning youth and.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So job creation. I often say that you don't come out like a lot of people do to say I'm going to create 10 million jobs.
How?
It's not even. It doesn't even make sense when people say that. You know. Why? It's not even my responsibility as president to create jobs.
I agree.
It's the first thing. So, but again, we politic everything. And somehow people like those, promises. So if I tell you 10 million, they say, oh, it's our man. No, it's not true. They've been telling you 10 million jobs for how many years? Where are they? It's because they cannot. They are not responsible for creating those jobs. What you're supposed to do is to create the enabling environment.
And people like us,
and then people like you, we create the jobs. It's automatic, right? When you create the enabling environment, some big unicorn abroad will say, wow, this is the place we need to go. We've been going to Asia and all these other places. Nigeria is the next destination. Yeah. We want to bring in $5 billion investment. When that money comes in, do you know how it will trickle? Jobs will follow.
And then you streamline them to treat your citizens well.
Well, I will tell them to pay. That's when I will tell them to pay tax. I will tell them we start to generate income as well.
So let me just throw in addition to what Nima said. I've been in recent times conversation with a few political people in the politics right now, and the conversation, they got a visitor from the men, and the men came to visit and say that towards 2023, this person, one man was talking, another man was talking, and at the end of the day, money exchanged hands. And my question was, why are they visiting you? He said, because they know he wants to run again. And they control a particular block. So, and it dawned on me that the politics is being controlled by people we don't want to lead us. And so the people leading us understand that these are the people to talk to. And those ones canvass for votes, they will deliver. The people that I saw, they will deliver those 100,000 votes or those 50, they will deliver it. Now, you are intellectual. You're not going to go and speak to those guys. You cannot pay them what they're already getting from the current political structure we have. How do we change the system that currently...
The current
machinery that has been delivering. And I know that statistically we have enough number to change, but how do we get people to use their rights to make the change necessary for us to see growth?
Okay. So, let me talk about your statistics. We often make an assumption that these guys, this structure that we're referring to, is everything that exists. Now, let's remember that the population of youth that have not been involved in politics is significant.
Yes.
That population by itself can win an election.
Those just who turned 18 recently, Seth.
Those that just turned 18.
Yeah, true.
You know, those that since 2019 and now, do you know how many that have voting age? You know, many times if I'm talking with some politicians, they say, okay, your constituency, all these young people, this, that, and the other, they are just social media people. Now, imagine for a minute that all those social media people actually have PVCs and they also vote. These are what you call, blue ocean. These are new people in the system. And it's not impossible. I believe strongly that 2023 is going to be different because people are saying they are tired and they want to do something about their tiredness.
Have they started getting their PVC?
Many people are getting
their PVC. Bernard's holding for it. Bernard, are you there? Thanks for calling.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, you're live. Go ahead, please.
Okay, good morning to the guests in the studio. Good morning to the crew.
Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Okay, my question goes like this. I'm Mima. Hello, ma.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, the question I want to ask is, the current structure, the federal system, their practices, and those things on exclusive needs, the security, the mineral resources, the police, our federal roads, and the revenue generation system.
Bernard, I can't hear you. Could you speak a bit slower? I can't hear you.
Okay, what I want to ask, those items on exclusive needs, because it's like the head is overburdened.
Okay.
When he becomes if he becomes the president, is he going to sustain that system?
Okay, you're talking about exclusive and concurrent list. But that was going to be my next question on constitution. Do you agree with this constitutional review that you were talking about? Because he's talking about the exclusive list, so a concurrent list. And the fact that many say that this constitution is not serving us. So do you agree on how would you do? Because we realized that Buhari had the intention when he was campaigning. When he now got to the office now, all sort of English is being spoken and it's not being done. Okay. So in your view, do we need a constitutional review?
Short answer, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Is it the first thing that we need to do? No.
Okay.
And here's the simple reason why. If you pick up the Constitution today, I've read it back to back, front to back, you will find out that most of it we are not even abiding by or implementing today, a lot of it.
That one Nima says all the time.
Okay. And I draw correlation with even of running a business. You can actually run a successful business without company policy. You have good leadership, you have good people with right mindset. Things will still work well, right? And that's a very, very, yes, it seems like it's a simple way to look at it, but that's how I need people to look at it. That the constitutional reviews has to happen. It's not a question. But you can't start tackling that first on day one. Let us first of all stop the bleeding and, address a lot of other critical issues so that you would even be in the right frame of mind to even change constitution. Right. But right now, from all your freedom of this, freedom of that, and all the other provisions in your constitution, are people free to do all these different things that they've provided for in the constitution? No.
So I have two questions. I just put it small like this.
Okay.
One of the problems I see that we need to change if Nigeria has to go move and become what we want it to become is the problem of ethnicity. How do you tackle the problem of we seeing ourselves as Nigerians first before our ethnicity? So are you going to scrap, when they ask you to fill forms, or state of origin, are you going to scrap it so you're just a Nigerian first before that? Then secondly, what is your vision for the country? A lot of people do not understand the vision that we're operating on. So countries who have excelled had a vision. For instance, Dubai, their vision was excellence, first of all. So what is the vision that you have for the country that will serve as a framework for the things you begin to do if peradventure you get it?
Okay, so I've wrapped the entire vision around 3 pillars that you mentioned earlier. And the ultimate outcome is that there's progress, right? Right now, I would have said that things are at a standstill, but it's not even at a standstill. Yeah, we're actually regressing.
Oh.
Right? So everything that I'm saying we need to do, the way you would restore that dignity of the average Nigerian is that there is progress and that you have to start from there. Now, what are those 3 things? We've mentioned them. 1, let's sort of security. There's nothing you can do. We're talking about enabling environment. There's nothing you can do without solving that. There's nothing you can do without reforming some key institutions. Justice, health, education. I recently, met with a friend in one of the Emirate countries who took me around an education city. And he said that every citizen of their country is entitled to free education in top universities in that education city because that's where their own subsidy goes. So their priority is investing in their human beings because they are saying that, in the next few years, just imagine what the country will be. So those are some of the things that I'm saying. What's the current situation with our educational system?
So is it fair to say, because this administration can say, okay, I tried to fix all the problems, but it was difficult. So I picked a few. I'm doing infrastructure, I'm building roads, I'm fixing roads. Agriculture, I've invested in agriculture. They can tell you I picked about 2 or 3, which, I thought I could do everything, insecurity, education, health. But unfortunately, COVID came, I don't have the money, but I've done a lot in agriculture and infrastructure. Those 2, I know that we've seen some progress. Do you think, indeed, they could have done better? And how would you do better in 2023?
My priority, whilst I appreciate the role of, let me say, hard infrastructure, my priority is soft. Yeah, soft infrastructure, i.e. things like the values, things like prioritizing education, things like healthcare, People are dying. People cannot afford. If you have the average common man on the street cannot afford to go and get operated or get a surgery done. The moment there's a major issue, they're praying that they're not going to die. Yeah. This is a crisis. So if you're telling those people that can't afford healthcare, that cannot get their own cases judged properly in court, that they cannot go to school, and you're telling them you're building roads, they can't relate with it. They need to survive. They need to have a decent life. That's my priority. So not that infrastructure will come. There are people ready to spend I tell somebody said, oh, you're not making a lot of emphasis on power infrastructure. I said, guess what? You can call some friends and some investors to roll out infrastructure. We have infrastructure today. But do you know the problem?
Security.
Not just security. People can't afford to pay for power.
Yes,
Yeah,
so.
that's it.
Yes, so.
So how are they going to make the returns on the investment? So it's still anything we're talking about right now. The priority is restoring the dignity of Nigerians.
I think we can end with that. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure having you on the
It's a
show.
pleasure.
That's all we can take on the show today. Hope you learned a few things as we have. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.